This conference will now be recorded.
All right, recording has started. All right, so welcome to the EMT program. I'm going to introduce instructors and other people as well that are within the company. So my name is Kevin Romano. I am a firefighter paramedic. I work for Action Ambulance full-time as the clinical and education supervisor for Maine and New Hampshire operations. I've been teaching now, oh God, probably since 2004, and I got my EMT license back in 1999. So I got a little bit of experience, worked in some busy systems from Manchester, Nashua as a supervisor for AMR to more rural systems like in the towns of Shapley. I did Lebanon for a while. Also did a long stint in Massachusetts, working some of the bigger city systems down there as well. So hopefully I can start sharing some of my wealth and knowledge that I have and kind of send that your way to make you guys better providers. So my wife, Orly, is the CFO of the company. She handles all the financial stuff. That's her email address there, finance@FireTech Training. Make sure you guys write down these email addresses for myself and for the CFO if you need to get a hold of anything financially or if you have any questions for me. JT Harmon has been my planning logistics officer since we started the business back in 2015. And he handles all my IT stuff, emails. He also helps instruct as well. Yeah, he's an EMT, another supervisor for Action Ambulance, and also just took the chief of Effingham position for the fire department. So you'll probably see him pop in from practical stations and things like that on the weekends when we do our weekend classes, or if I'm tied up, he may jump in and teach one of the lectures for the night. I do have some other guest instructors that do come in from time to time, and they may take over a lecture for a night if they have like more of a specialty in that topic. So I want to make sure you guys get the best education possible so we can get ready for the National Registry. So I know most of you that are on here, especially working in the area that I do. So I'm going to go around, and I know hopefully all you guys have the ability to unmute, but I need to know your name, if you belong to a fire department, and years in public safety. I know not years in EMS, because obviously this is why you're here. So if you belong to a fire department, if you've been in the fire department for 10 years, just let me know. I kind of want to judge some kind of experience levels as we go through. Now I'm going to go down my list. I'm going to pick the names as we go. So Ashley, you're the first one on my list. If you could just tell me name, where you work, and if you've had any public safety experience.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you. Great.
Okay. My name is Ashley. I don't have any experience. I actually work for a dealership.
All right. The next one is Dave Salazar.
And can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Dave. Thank you.
All right. David Salazar. I'm currently an ambulance driver at Sockby Rescue. I'm also going over to Leamington Rescue, and I am a fire police for Standish Fire Department. EMT experience. I was an EMTB in the U.S. Coast Guard for 2 years, and I'm just getting back into it now.
Awesome. And just so you guys know, Sockby Rescue is Maine. So Ashley is also from Maine as well. So I probably should have mentioned this class is a New Hampshire program that meets the National Registry standards. Because I am a Maine instructor coordinator, along with being a New Hampshire instructor coordinator, I will be doing the Maine update as well for the new protocol rollout for the scope of practice. So when you join a Maine department, if you decide to do so, you'll have all those scope of practice modules completed. All right, the next one on the list is Emily.
I'm Emily. I don't have any public safety experience, although I'm a nursing student and I've been an LNA for 3 years.
Excellent. All right, the next one is Jason.
I'm Jason Hull. I'm on the Milan Fire Department. I've been on there for about 5 years. It's just a little town north of Berlin in New Hampshire. So.
All right. All right, Jeff, you are up next.
Hi, I'm Jeff Lerock. I'm on Madison Fire. I'm originally from Vermont. I'm a level 2 firefighter. I took my fire 1 and 2 when I was in Vermont. I have about 14 years experience, and this is my first EMT.
Excellent. So if you guys are doubling up, I know some of you are doubling up on computers, just go with the next person if you're with somebody else.
Hi, I'm Skyla. I have no experience in public safety yet, and I work at Green Mountain Treatment Center.
That's a lot of experience already.
Yeah.
All right. Nick, you are up next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Robbins, and I also am on Madison Fire Department. Just started volunteering this last fall. I was certified as a nationally registered EMT in 1999 as well, Kevin, and then did that and also ski patrolled for a number of years, but left the EMT lapse, unfortunately, so I'm re-upping it.
Excellent. All right, so I got Nicole and Steve.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I don't have any experience, but I belong to the Tamworth Fire Rescue. I just joined the department at the beginning of February. And
Hi, I'm Steve. I've been in the service 21 years. I've got Fire 2. I've been in intermediate before it became advanced. And I've been on Freedom and Tamworth, and I currently belong to Tamworth.
All right. Thank you. All right, Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm a student firefighter at Center Ospey. Been a call guy here for 3 years, and I quit my full-time job as a corrections officer to be a fire student. So that's me.
Excellent. All right, Joy, if you can hear us, you can try it. I know she was having some connectivity issues. All right, if we get her back, we'll get her back on. All right, Taylor, you're up.
Hi, I'm Taylor French. I'm on Wolfboro Fire Rescue. Been here about 9 years. Before that, I had 2 years experience in West Ospey as a junior, level 2 firefighter, advanced diver for the department, a few other certifications. So I've got quite a bit of experience in the fire service.
Excellent. All right, Deb, since you're on my cell phone, do you want to give them an update of who you are?
Yes, and I think I can see everybody, but I know you can't see me because I don't have a webcam. But my name's Deborah Wilson. I'm a volunteer with Lebanon Fire, and I'm not a member of the department. I'm taking this EMT course for my own interest. I'm a member of the USBRC and a volunteer for the American Red Cross. And I took Kevin's firefighter rehab class, and I do firefighter rehab for Lebanon and other places when they ask me. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Joy, do you make it back on? All right, we'll catch her in a little bit. All right, moving forward. All right, so as far as facilities go, the only facility that we'll be utilizing will be the Action Ambulance Building, which will be at 570 Plains Road in Tamworth. And then when we get there on the first day, which will be coming up here in March, I will go over the parking and everything else. However, I will cover parking now. Parking for the Tamworth location is out behind the building in the back parking lot. The front parking lot is used for the employees as well. And then the rest of the stuff we will kind of go over when it comes time for that. All right. So this is the company website. It's firetechtraining.com. I suggest you guys check it out and be familiar with it. That is where all your videos are going to be placed, along with all your clinical forms and everything else that you will need for this program. We're going to go over that here in a second. As far as paperwork goes, the course paperwork, clinical paperwork, that stuff will all be located on that website. The recorded lectures, this will be found under the EMS student portal, and I'm going to show you guys how to access that now. And the password to get in, you guys want either you can take a screenshot of this if you want, or just take a picture of your computer screen, but this is the password you don't want to forget. This will have all your information you're going to need to rewatch all the lectures. They also print off your clinical forms that you're going to need to be filled out during your clinical rotations. So I'm going to show you guys how to access that. So go to firetechtraining.com. I promise you it is trying to open. It is just being deathly slow today. I have no idea what's going on. All right, so when you go to the full screen, you guys can see it. My goodness, this is really slow. There we go. I don't think I've ever seen a computer this slow before. It doesn't like something. So under where it says programs here, there'll be a drop-down menu that will come down at some point here. Click on EMS Student Portal. We'll go to a guest area. Type in the password. Click go. Oh, what did I put down for the password now? My goodness, see, I should have wrote it down myself. All right, there we go. So in here, you'll find the student portal. So you'll see all your clinical paperwork. Everything is done in PDF. Your student manual is in here, student syllabus, along with the health form that needs to be filled out. If you scroll down towards the bottom, you're going to find recorded lectures. In here, you'll see a bunch of links to the YouTube channel that we have that will bring you right to the recorded lectures. So you can actually rewatch the lectures that we do, like today's, for example. All right. Other than that, there's a bunch of other stuff on the website you guys can take a look at, and other programs that we offer as well. We offer quite a bit, other than just EMS. We offer a lot of fire-based programs and technical rescue programs as well. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. There we go. All right, so as far as the student handbook goes, I'm kind of going through it. I am the lead instructor. This is my cell phone number. This is my business line. I do carry that with me even when I'm at work. And I also have call forwarding as well. The best way to get a hold of me, though, is through text message first, other than email and text message, and just say, hey, can you give me a call? If I free up from a call that I'm on, I'll give you guys a call right back. Other instructors that I'll be utilizing, there's a couple of AEMTs and paramedics that might be coming to assist as well, more towards the practical sessions than lectures. And our medical director is Dr. Scott Orr. He works over at Huggins Hospital in Wolfboro, New Hampshire. So he's my medical director for the business. So our clinical sites is Action Ambulance Service, New Hampshire Division. So we have 3 different locations. We have one in Ossipee, one in Tamworth, and one in North Conway. They all do emergency 911 services for all the different precincts and towns that we cover. The next service I have is Berlin EMS. I know there's a couple people live up in the Milan, Berlin area. So you guys will be utilizing that system. They are a fairly busy system up there in that city. And then the other service we utilize is Stewart's Ambulance for the Lakes region. So I don't use anything with the Seacoast. They cover Wolfboro, Moultonboro, Sandwich, Center Harbor, Meredith, that vicinity, and Tufton Borough as well. So they're a fairly busy system, especially in the Meredith Wolfboro system itself, in those specific stations. So you guys will have the opportunity to work at these 3 different locations when it comes time for clinical rotations. And that'll be after we do the first hands-on practical day in person. I'm going to teach you guys how to do patient assessment. So we are using, as far as required text, we do not offer textbooks anymore. Everything has gone digital. That has made life a lot easier for a lot of people. So we use AOS Navigate 2 Premier Edition in that, and I'll kind of go over that kind of stuff with you guys here very shortly on the different aspects of that program, including audiobooks, which is nice if you're riding around in your car and you want to kind of listen to the chapters. We're also going to be offering the AHA BLS CPR course, and you need to get, if you'd like to purchase a student manual, you can purchase that on your own, but it has to be the 2020 version, which is the newest version from the AHA. If you have a current CPR card and it does not expire before the end of class, then you do not need to attend that CPR portion. But you have to have a valid CPR card in order to take and obtain your National Registry certification to become an EMT. So we offer that course as part of this at no extra cost. All right, so prerequisite high school diploma, GED. You are required by New Hampshire, and I know some of you guys are Maine, but you're still taking a New Hampshire course. You have to have the ICS 100, ICS 700, and the AWR 160 HAZWOPER for HAZVAT. When we meet next week, I'll kind of go more in detail on how to get those. The ICS 100 700 is type it in through FEMA. Then you take the course and you pass those, and they give you a certificate to send those certificates to me. Most of you that are in the fire service already have these done anyways. The AWR 160 is found on the TEEX.com. So it's called the TEEX website, which is through the Texas school. And if you can pass the pre-test, then you don't have to take the course. It's basic hazmat. If you've never done this before, then it's a good course to actually go through. Something new for New Hampshire EMS is they require criminal background checks now to do clinical rotations. So for Maine, you can get those online. It's fairly simple. And I don't think I'm not even sure if it's even that expensive to get those. New Hampshire, I think it might be a little more difficult. I think you have to go to Concord to get those. But it's something that's been added new that happened over the summer. They want to see a criminal background check before clinical rotations start. So if you guys can go get those, send them to me. Everything I have, remember, is kept confidential and put into locked file, so no one else can see those. The course outline, so the program meets or exceeds the National Registry core curriculum for the EMT. This course will give the students the skills and knowledge necessary to move forward as an entry-level provider in the state of practice. So because you're National Registry, you can go to like 48 different states within the United States and practice EMS. What we give you out of this class is the ability to pass the National Registry EMT, which is a certification. It's not a license. So once you get your certification, then you can apply for licensure in the state that you reside in. So if you have Maine, you can apply for Maine EMS with your National Registry. New Hampshire, the same way. Massachusetts is a National Registry state. Vermont is national. Even Florida is a National Registry state. So I mean, you can choose which one you want to go to and be able to practice medicine at those states. But remember, you have to obtain a license to practice. As far as grading goes, you have to maintain an 80 average throughout the program. Now, if you're hovering around 77, 78, I'm not going to fail you. I'm just going to let you know, hey, you got to bring your grades up a little bit. If you're down in the 60s, unfortunately, I have to cut. There's no way you're going to be able to make up the difference from that. All right. Whoever just texted me, the answer is yes. I don't have your names put in my phone yet. So as far as the grading structure goes, quizzes are worth 30% of your grade. Exams are worth 50% of your grade. We have 4 exams. So it'll be exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, and then your class final. So those 4 is worth 50%. Attendance and participation is worth 10, and then your Premier Edition assignments are worth 10 as well. The only assignments that I have you guys do on the Premier Edition that you get graded on are the ebook quizzes. So there is a difference from the ebook quiz versus an actual quiz that I made. So technically, you're going to have 2 quizzes per chapter. This will help bring your grades up if you're not doing too well. As far as quizzes go, again, you have 1 week normally to complete your quiz, and you get 3 chances to complete it, and it takes the highest grade. And you do them at home. So I know people are going to use their books. It's okay. Utilize your book. That's perfectly fine. Because if you didn't know the answer and you didn't pass it the first time through and you looked it up the second time, well, now you know the answer to it because you looked it up. And that makes me a lot happier than you guys just guessing and guessing. All right. So that's the grading matrix, and that's how we're going to be utilizing for that. Healthcare forms. So I'm assuming everybody got my emails with the waiver of liability, the the healthcare forms and all that kind of stuff, right? I need to get those within 30 days of the start of class. So today starts our first day. So by April 2nd, I need to make sure I have your forms submitted to me, because I cannot let you do clinical rotations without that and your criminal background check. Student evaluations. These are very important. Students are responsible for all materials covered in the assignment and text, laboratory, and class sessions. Course evaluations will be based upon assigned readings and lecture materials, as well as the detailed course objectives. Quizzes will be given on a regular basis. You will have a quiz every single class, unless there is an exam that day. You will also be quizzed in the combination of didactic, written, and practical skills. So with that being said, practical stations. The National Registry, now keep in mind, this is not Maine National Registry, this is New Hampshire, so there's less skill stations that have to be passed. Excuse me. All practical exams will be pass and fail. Either you get 100% complete or you fail the station. Again, retake it and retake it. You do that in the class until we get you to pass each station twice. On the last practical day, you test out of your stations twice to make sure you guys pass it and understand what's expected by the skill check sheets. Those skill check sheets will be up on the company website within the week. I'm going to have those posted in a PDF form. The only one that they are no longer testing on is CPR, because you have an AHA certification, so you've already proven that you passed that portion of it. Class participation is very important. So especially during practical days, as well as during our lectures. If you have a question, there's 2 methods of what you can utilize to send. And I got to bring this chat box back up again. So with GoToMeeting, there is a chat box, which I'm trying to open right now. It's just taking forever. Feel free. I see Deb's saying that she's in. So there's 2 methods of sending me a message. You can do a chat and you can do it privately so nobody else can see it, or you can do a chat that everybody can see. So if everybody looks in the chat box, they should be able to see Deb saying, "Hi, Kevin, I think I'm in." So she said that to everybody. And then Jeff sent me some private chats, which I'm not going to read out loud, obviously. But there's some private chats in there, and I can reply back to you privately and or to everyone in the group.
Excuse me, Kevin.
Yes.
Could you tell us again, just because I don't think I had this conversation when I signed up, but exactly what days are the classes?
The practical days or the days of the classes in general?
Both.
So we meet every Wednesday.
Okay.
So every Wednesday night, we have a lecture, and then there are 6, I may have this wrong, 6 Sundays.
Okay.
5 of those are in person. 1 of them is going to be lecture all day long.
Okay.
So those are in your student manual that I sent to you via email.
Okay.
Yep. And also it's listed on your student syllabus as well. And I will have that for you. We'll be going over that as well during this program.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. So the final practical exam will be tested in areas of competency. You have to meet 100% accuracy with this, and you have to do it twice. If you fail it, it's okay. You can retake it. But I want to make sure you guys pass it with 100% accuracy. So when you go to your National Registry practical day, which you guys have to schedule on your own time, you'll have no problem passing the stations. And we will cover that more in detail in an in-person class on how to register for the National Registry and find my class that I'm doing currently and affiliate yourself. That's how you're going to sign up. Clinical requirements. In order to successfully complete the course, the student must complete a minimum of 36 hours of clinical time with an approved EMS clinical site. So we used to do hospital and ambulance, but with the COVID stuff and everything else, it has been nearly impossible to get hospital time. So we're doing all 36 hours on the ambulance. The student must meet a minimum of 10 patient assessments. If the 10 assessments are not met in the 36 hours, another day of ride time must be scheduled to meet the 10 assessment minimum. Now, I fully understand that people are white clouds and they may not get calls. If that is to happen, you have done 48 hours on the ambulance, you're like, I've gotten one patient assessment. That's okay. What we'll do is we'll do simulation assessments on one of our practical days, and we'll have you write narratives on those instead. So if you can't get all your 10 contacts on the ambulance, it's okay. We'll make them up through simulations instead, because I understand we can't make people become sick and injured. There are those days where people who get the white cloud student curse and nothing happens. The crews are happy, so they don't have to write calls all day long, but it's not good for the student because they're not getting that hands-on assessment. So in the attendance policy, I understand people have lives. I've got to put this out there. Attendance will be taken at the beginning and end of each class, okay? If you have to bug out early for some reason, shoot me a text message in the middle of class and to say, hey, something came up, I've got to take off, or I'm at work tonight and a call just came in. I understand people have jobs, people have lives, and I understand that. But if you don't show up to class and you don't tell me you're not going to attend, that's an unexcused absence. If you have more than 2 unexcused absences from the course, you will be deemed ineligible for state licensure and will be removed from the course itself, which means you've lost everything. And you're still required to continue paying for the class because you signed a contract. So please let me know you can't make it. If you're excused, it's okay. I just need to know you guys aren't going to be in class. We just don't show up and I don't know what's going on. All right. So as far as tardiness goes, again, we're doing the internet world. This is a little bit different than what I have down here, which would normally be for an actual in-person class. But please do not be late for classes because you're wasting everybody else's time by showing up late. All right, so please make sure that you show up on time. And on time for me is 15 minutes early. All right, next. So non-discrimination statement. I have to mention this in every class. Fire tech training does not discriminate in its employment or education programs on the basis of age, race, color, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, disability, or religion. Fire tech training complies with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title IX Education Amendments of 1972, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act 1973, and American Disabilities Act ADA of 1990. We do not discriminate. Moving forward, dress codes. So when I do in-person classes, I have a dress code that is required. Why? Because the state of New Hampshire requires dress codes for their in-house facility in Concord. We're kind of a branch of that. So we need to make sure we follow the same standard. And we are a professional service. However, I don't want to know what you guys are wearing at home. None of my business. As long as you show up for class, I'm good. However, when you're showing up to practical sessions, t-shirts are perfectly fine. Shorts or jeans, closed-toe shoes are required. Please do not show up to class wearing sandals for practical sessions. When you are at your clinical sites, you are required to wear a polo shirt. Make sure that you do not have anything with profanity on it, but a polo shirt, EMS pants, what I mean by those or like Dickies or the 511 pants, whatever you want to get. When you start working EMS, those are the pants you're going to be wearing anyways. And you have to wear black closed-toed non-mesh shoes or boots. Why non-mesh? Because you may have somebody vomit all over your feet. It could happen. And the last thing you want is vomit or blood leaking down through your mesh shoes onto your socks, into your feet, and onto your feet. So protect yourself. For hybrid online lectures, I had to add this into the program. Each student is required to have a webcam so the lead instructor may watch the student. I am not watching you guys. I am taking your word that you are here. The student must respond via online chat box every 10 minutes with a response that coincides with the current lecture topic. Again, I had the chat box up. Try to participate in what we're talking about. I do ask a lot of questions to the students and their thoughts on what's going on, because technically you're supposed to read the chapter before we cover it. Obviously, chapter 1, you have not read it yet, because I just gave you guys your course access codes. The instructor has the right to call on any student in the program and ask questions based on the current lecture at any time. You're required to answer back. Now, if you have an issue and your mic isn't working, shoot me a text or jump into the chat box. I usually will have a secondary instructor to moderate the chat box to make sure the student is responding in accordance to the 10-minute rule. I am watching the chat box currently right now on the side of my screen, so I can kind of see what you guys are putting into it. If a student does not respond, the moderator will then text the student in a private chat to check his or her status. I'm gonna make sure you guys aren't dead somewhere. If the moderator has to check in with the said student again, the student will not receive credit for that class and result in an absent mark. Pretty much, you guys need to participate. It's also worth 10% of your grade, participation. So just make sure you participate in this. If you are a shy person, you're not going to be shy by the end of this program, because you're going to be doing interviews. I like to call them interrogations, but you're going to be interviewing people at their worst moment to get information out to help come up with a plan to treat somebody medically and make them better. And that's our plan behind it. All right, so student handbook, please make sure you guys, if you have not already, log in to the links that I sent you for the student handbook acknowledgement and for the waiver of liability acknowledgement. All right, course outline, we'll go over that here in a moment. Let's just finish this up here first. We'll go over the entire outline. Waivers, make sure you guys sign those. Those are done through the link that I sent you. As far as the roster goes, I'm keeping track of attendance for the online classes. With that being said, there will be a roster for you to sign out your in-day practicals. Medical evaluations, remember they're required 30 days after the start of the program. If it takes a little bit longer to get them, I understand it. You're not going to be penalized for it. I just can't put you into clinical rotations until I have that form. Clinical rotations, this is kind of important to pay attention to. They will be assigned to each student by the instructors. So I technically will pick your clinical site and where you're going to be riding. I'm not going to make you drive to Berlin if you live in Lebanon, Maine. That would just not be fair to make you drive 2 hours to your clinical site. I'm going to try to keep you as close as I can to where you guys currently live. I kind of have an idea where people live anyways that are in this program, so I'm going to try to make sure you're at the closest clinical site so you don't have to drive too far. Clinical sites with Action Ambulance, the latest you can stay is 11 p.m., so you can do 16-hour shifts. You cannot do overnights. The state does not allow it. We do not allow it. You're sleeping with the other crews that are there. That's their time, their downtime, so they can unwind, and they don't want to have to be teaching students 24 hours. A lot of these people that are doing precepting do not get paid any extra money to do it. They're doing it out because they love education. Those are the kind of people that I'm putting you with. They're good clinicians and love teaching. All clinical hours and contacts must be completed by the end of the program to pass the program. Without the hours or contacts, you cannot sit for the class final. If you are struggling, I need to know. So please let me know. There's no stupid question. Trust me, there isn't. You can ask me anything you want to ask me. I'll give you a straight answer for it. If I don't know, I will find it for you. Clinical evaluations must be completed and signed by an FTO for your hours and contacts to be valid. With that being said, on the company website, there are clinical forms. There's Form 1 and Form 2. Those have to be filled out and completed by your field training officer that you were assigned to at the clinical site. If you do not have those turned in, those hours do not count. You have to redo your hours. So please understand the importance behind that. You also have to be in the correct clinical attire during clinical rotations. If you are unable to attend a clinical shift that you are scheduled for, you must contact the clinical site and you have to contact me. We have multiple EMT programs. We're just signing on with United Training Center for their paramedic program as well. And we're going to have a bunch of students coming in and out. So if I schedule you guys for a clinical day, I expect you to be there because somebody else may not have had that chance to work that day. So again, we have plenty of trucks. I want to make sure you guys are getting the right time. If you can't make it, don't just not show up, okay? Just let me know you can't make it ahead of time. If your car breaks down, your kid is sick, you got forced into work, this, whatever happens, just let me know, all right? Communication is key through this program. If I don't know what's going on, I can't help you or back you up. All right, we talked about program uniform stuff and all that. Remember polo shirts, EMS pants, closed-toed shoes. Facebook, you cannot post anything from your clinical rotations on any social media sites. We are bound under HIPAA laws. No posts or pictures from clinical sites, please. This will get you removed from the program if I start seeing this. Okay, that means don't post videos, don't post you doing anything crazy, right? Just try to keep this stuff professional, okay? And remember, Facebook is a phenomenal thing. It's a great tool, but it can also destroy your entire career. The last thing you want is to post a picture of you showing up to someone's house because you're in the ambulance and someone knows that's somebody and they say, what's going on with this? And it hurts the service, it hurts my company, and it hurts you guys in trying to get a license. All right, so please be professional.
Kevin?
As far as cell phones and mobile devices, when you're in the clinical sites, please put your phones on vibrate, okay? You don't need to turn them off, but it is a distraction. Laptops are allowed for classroom sessions for note-taking and presentations. Again, you can bring a laptop to clinical sites. Just keep in mind that when you are there, okay, the companies that you're riding with are not liable for if something goes missing, breaks, or whatever. All right. So you guys have any questions in regards to that?
No,
You guys good online?
I have one question, Kevin.
Yeah.
So I have hazmat with my Fire 1. Does that meet the hazmat requirement?
So that's the HazWhopper program versus hazmat.
Okay.
But if you're hazmat certified, you should be able to pass that pre-test without an issue.
Okay.
So back to the attire. So what I'm looking for the attire for clinical sites, so when you're riding with Action, Stewart's, or Berlin, a polo shirt, EMS pants, and closed-toed shoes, black. If you are doing your practical sessions, you need to have closed-toed shoes, shorts, jeans, t-shirt are perfectly fine. If you want to wear a department uniform, that's perfectly fine too for those practical days. But please do not wear a full duty uniform for the service you work for to a clinical site, right? So they'll expect you to be a licensed provider already and just sets a bad example. So I want you guys to be there as the student learning.
So just a solid plain polo shirt.
Say that one more time.
A solid plain polo shirt for clinicals.
Yes, if you have that. If you have one available, yes.
That was my question because of being a service provider already. We have polo shirts, so you do not want those worn at clinicals.
I prefer that the service names not be worn. If you guys, if you are financially strapped for cash and you can't go out and buy one, then you can wear your other shirt. I don't want to what I'm trying to do is try to keep it as professional as I possibly can. And I trust that all you guys are very professional people and you can make the professional judgment call on what you're going to wear. All right. I'm trying to bring up the my goodness, this is slow. I have no idea why. All right, so you've been turned off. Let me reply back to a message really quick. Hold on a second. If I can, I'm trying to. There we go. Okay, perfect. That did go to the person I was sending it to. I like it. All right, so let me bring up a couple things. All right, let's bring up the syllabus. You guys can see that. And once we do that, we're going to cover chapter 1 today. Put this over to the side. All right, so can everybody see the course syllabus now that's up?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So once my thing's done doing some pinwheel stuff, we'll get moving. All right, so tonight, March 2nd, as you can see, class policies, student paperwork, housekeeping items, and we're going to cover chapter 1. It's broken down by hours per section. Now, keep in mind, you might not be here until 10 o'clock. We might get done at like 8:30 or 9, depending on the chapters we're covering and the amount of material. So I want to make a mention. When I am teaching these classes, it is your responsibility to make sure you read the chapters, okay? I am not going to cover word for word. In these chapters, you are all adults, and you are responsible to make sure you do the appropriate reading. I will cover, however, the highlights of what you need to know. And I usually go in depth on what we talk about. But it does not mean that I am going to read word for word each chapter to you guys, all right? So again, we're all adults. This is a college level type class. If you were to take this class at a college, it'd be worth 5 credit hours. Kind of keep that in mind, all right? So this is truly a college level program, so I expect college level participation. So you can see March 2nd, we have March 9th, chapters 2 and 3. Then March 16th, we're doing chapters 4 and 8. Then the 23rd, we do 5 and 6. This is our first Sunday class. So if you notice, I put down the address in the syllabus as well, right? Sunday classes start at 9 a.m. Okay, please do not be late, right? We'll be covering practical sessions as well with that. And we talked about chapters 9 and 10 on here. So we'll end up doing some live lectures during those, only because it's area management, patient assessment, kind of all goes in together with that practical. So I kind of wanted to keep all those together. Other than that, everything else is done virtual. The next, March 30th into April, and our next April Sunday class, as you can see here, is April 24th. This is going to be done virtual. It's going to be a long day. But again, you can be home. We take an hour lunch break. We come back. We finish up. You also have your sectional 2 exam that day. April 6th was your sectional 1, then April 24th, sectional 2. We scroll down into May 1st. We're going to cover quickly environmental emergencies. We're going to do AHA CPR. And then we're going to start doing the scope of practice modules for New Hampshire. For blind insertion airway, which is your King Airways, King Airways, and your iGels. Then trach maintenance. We go into Wednesday. Wednesday, then May 15th is our next one. Again, it's going to be an all day at home. Going into Wednesday the 18th, then May 22nd, we're doing 12 lead placement. But keep in mind, Maine is allowing 12 leads now for EMTs, so that's all part of it. Okay. Advanced final assessment, and then more practical stations and assessments. The practical days are days that we're going to start getting you ready for the National Registry practical stations that you're going to be seeing when it comes time for that. Pediatrics, geriatrics, then we have Sunday, we're doing ready, check, inject, nerve agent, and more practicals. Those are all hands-on stuff. So the way this is all broken down, if there is not an address, like you can see here listed, then it is an at-home day. The only days we're meeting in person are days that there is an address listed. Okay, June 5th is the last day of the program. As far as us meeting, that's the day you're going to be testing out of your stations. So you're going to do the practical skill stations, and you're going to pass those. My recommendation, once I get those posted for you by the end of the week, is you print those off and you start reading them. You memorize the order those are in. I will teach you the skills, but you have to go in order for those. So start reading them early and studying those. Okay, you can memorize them. And then when it comes time for the skills day that we're doing, I'll teach you guys the skills you need to know to get through that station. So that way there, when it comes time for June 5th, you should be able to pass each station twice with 100% accuracy. And then Wednesday, June 8th is your class written final. Once you have passed everything by the 5th, I will let you know if you can hit the final or not. The final, it's not like a 6 o'clock start. I open it up for the entire day. Once you log in, you have 3 hours to complete your final. If for some reason you log out and you take off to go run an errand and come back, your final closes. So keep in mind that once you log in, you cannot leave your computer, okay? Make sure you finish your final, and then you can leave. So that would not be a good day to do something at work, especially if you're working in a firehouse or whatever. As far as the ICS and the HAZWOPER stuff, I do need that by May 1st, so make sure you guys get that stuff in, all right? It seems like a lot of information, but it's really not. It's not as bad as you think once you start getting into it. I'm kind of covering a lot of information all at once. All right, let me show you the Jones and Bartlett. Open this back up. So if you guys have computers in front of you, if you guys want to log into your JB Learning really quick, we're going to do all this together. So jblearning.com. We're going to log in if you have the ability to do it. All right, click on my account. All right, you're going to click on the Navigate to Premier Access. Then you're going to launch your course. And there are certain things you guys are not going to see that you're going to see on my screen as I'm showing you. And that'll just say hidden from students. So the attendance is hidden from you guys, but it's there for me to see to be able to put in the attendance records for the classes. All right. And you guys are not going to have all this stuff over here as far as you'll probably have grades, but all you're going to be able to do is see your grades. So I'm not going to open that up. That shows everybody's on my side as the instructor. So under quizzes, okay, that's going to be the quiz that I assign you that is open for 1 week. So if you click on quizzes now, you'll go to the page. You can see where it says Chapter 1 quiz. If you click on it now, it's not going to let you open it. It says it doesn't open until 10 p.m. March 2nd, and it will close March 9th by 6 p.m. Okay, so you've got a week to complete your quiz, and you get 3 attempts. With that being said, okay, if you forget to do it, I'm not going to reopen it. You get a 0 for the quiz. You have a week to do it. Okay, please do not forget. You have 7 days to get that completed. All right, your exams will be listed in here. Okay, so when you have an exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, and class final, those will be listed underneath the exams. Under test prep, I highly recommend that you guys utilize test prep. This is what it does. Stand by a minute. So underneath test prep, I'm going to put view as a student so you guys can see what it looks like as a student access. Okay. You can create practice tests. You can do complete assessment tests. These tests are almost identical to the National Registry written test you're going to be taking. Almost identical. Okay. So if you want to create a test, click on here. Let's say I want to do airway breathing, and I want to add 50 questions to that. Okay. You can create the exam. Right? And this is what the National Registry is going to look like when you take your National Registry exam over at Pearson VUE. Okay? You're going to have one question in front of you, and you're going to have to choose the best out of 4. All right? I'm just going to pick one. I'm not even reading the question, okay? I'm going to pick respiration. And it automatically tells you it was wrong, shows you the right answer, and gives you feedback on why it is the right answer and whatnot. So it helps you get through it, okay? So I would highly recommend that you utilize this. And if you feel like you want to, you can also send me your results. And you can say, hey, Kevin, can you give me a call sometime, or can I meet up with you at work one day or whatever? I really want you to go over respirations with me. I don't understand it. It's not clicking with me. Can you kind of go more in depth with me and one-on-one? And I'm going to tell you, absolutely. Please come by and see me. We'll go over it. Okay. The FTOs that you guys have that will be assigned to you, where you're going to be riding, they all know that you're students. They were all once a student before. Okay. With that being said, ask them questions. They want you to ask them questions. They're going to help you get through it. All right. These people, they're not monsters. They're there to help you out. All right. That's why I assigned them. The next thing here is simulations. So you have all these different simulations you can go through, from attempted suicide, motorcycle collision, respiratory distress. These are all available to you to utilize. Okay. The next one is going to be your virtual mentor lecture series. These are just more videos for you to watch on crew resource management, radio communications as well. So you have the choice of choosing all these different videos. The next one is your virtual ride-alongs. These are actually pretty neat. So you can go into here, click on virtual ride-alongs, and it actually puts you in the back of an ambulance on a video, and you can kind of answer stuff as you go through it. That's actually a pretty cool feature to this program. All right. Now, these are all your different chapters, as you can see here. You click on Chapter 1, EMS Systems. That's what we're covering tonight. You are required, okay, to complete your ebook quiz, which is right here, Ebook Quiz Chapter 1. All right, that has to be completed before the next class. All we're covering is Chapter 1 tonight. Complete Chapter 1 ebook quiz. Now, you can go and jump ahead. If you feel like you want to jump ahead and read more of the book and do more ebook quizzes ahead of time, That's perfectly fine. Okay, as long as all the ebook quizzes are done by the end of the program, then you get that 10% to your grade. Okay, it has flashcards. It even has an audiobook. Right, you can click on the audiobook like this, and you can access. Come on, you can access this from your phone as well. So if you're in your vehicle and you're doing Bluetooth.
EMS systems. Introduction. This textbook serves as the primary resource for the Emergency Medical Technician EMT course.
So you can literally listen to the entire chapter. If you'd like to look at the slides, so like the PowerPoint presentations, those are all in here as well. Different case studies, references, they're all going to be there, and that's for every single chapter. All right. So you have a bunch of materials that you can utilize for this, okay, to help you pass. Do you guys have any questions with that at all? Again, if you don't feel like unmuting and letting you know, just go to the text box, put down good to go, okay, thank you, or whatever. I just want to make sure you guys are participating. So throw something in.
Yeah, we're good over here.
Awesome. Good, good. Good, Deb, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I just was trying to figure out how to send it to you, just you, but I can't do it, so I'm just gonna leave it.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's good. You guys had no questions. Everything's looking pretty good. Hopefully nobody dropped out of the class already. I didn't scare anybody around. Make sure we have everybody here. I don't think we lost anybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have everybody here. That's awesome. I didn't scare anybody away. Perfect. I like it. All right. Not going to stop pushing the wrong buttons. We're doing better. So tonight we're going to cover chapter 1. So before we do that, we've been going at this now for an hour. I know you guys are probably more comfortable in sitting in steel chairs in a fire station, but let's take 5 minutes, get up, stretch. We're going to cover chapter 1 and we'll be done for the night. Okay? So let's take 5. I'm going to pause the recording.
This conference will now be recorded.
To answer your question, Ashley, yes. Very similar. And thank you, Nicole, for yours. All right, let me bring this thing up here. Comprehensive slides, chapter 1. Probably should open this 5 minutes ago during the break. Believe it or not, this is actually a pretty fun class, especially when we start doing the practical scenarios together. You really become one team. That's what I really push for, is a team atmosphere. So I think you guys will have a lot of fun with it. All right, so we're going to do a quick 98 slide presentation, but it's not too bad. We're just going to talk about the EMS system. There's quite a bit out there as far as the system works. So with that being said, we're going to talk about the different levels of EMS, the levels you could probably get into. There's a lot of different avenues that you can go. Some people may be doing this, for career opportunities or moving up the ladder and rank and things like that. So with that being said, let's talk about chapter 1. So preparatory stuff applies fundamental knowledge of the EMS system, safety and well-being of the medical provider, EMT, medical, legal, and ethical issues to the provision of emergency care. There is a lot of stuff we need to learn, and a lot of this is the nuts and bolts of what we're doing. As far as medical, legal, we're doing things the right way and following our protocols and our standard of care. making sure we're not negligent to the patient, make sure we're doing the proper type of care, we're getting into the right type of facility. And again, a lot of it seems very overwhelming at first, but it's going to lead into something even better later on down the road when everything starts to make sense. And one of these days, you're going to wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, everything makes sense. It just clicked. And that's where I want you guys to be, is say all this knowledge and everything is put together. So I have a method for my madness that I have. And with that being said, we're going to start talking more about EMS. So we're going to cover the EMS system from the history of like where it started. And it's good to have an understanding. Again, I'm not going to go super in depth on the history, but it's a good understanding. This is not the fire service. This is emergency medical services, which the fire service, we can go back to hundreds of years, right? When we did firefighting. But we never had emergency care. We always had like the hearse would show up and just transport the dead body to the hospital or to the morgue, right? And look at where it is now. So we're going to cover a little bit about that. Roles and responsibilities, professionalism of the EMS personnel, quality improvement, and that's one of the biggest things I do with my full-time job, and patient safety. We're also going to cover research and how the impact of the research of emergency medical responder EMR care. We're going to look at data collection, evidence-based decision-making, and public health using simple knowledge of principles of illness and injury prevention to emergency care. And public health being something that's becoming a lot more known in the EMS field by doing house calls versus actually responding to homes and transporting to the hospital. So this text is the primary resource for the Emergency Medical Technician EMT course. EMS is a system. Chapter 1 discusses the system key components. So the EMS system is a team of healthcare professionals. We have 4 different levels that we utilize. I'm going to talk about the 911 side. We're not getting into interfacility. There's a little bit different with that. With the 911 side, we have the EMR, which is the emergency medical responder. Then we have the EMT, emergency medical technician. Then we have the advanced EMT, and then we have the paramedic. And then we have the interfacility side where they go above and beyond paramedic and they get what they call interfacility transport certified and critical care paramedic as well. That goes into more in depth procedures, lab values, and things like that. EMS provides emergency care and transport, but there may be first response services with that as well. So some fire departments, like for example where I work, do not provide an ambulance, but they provide a first response by fire, and EMS comes in and makes the transport. And it's also governed by state laws. So they have RSAs in New Hampshire, Maine has Maine EMS state laws as well, what we need to follow. And then there's protocols, which are kind of like guidelines to kind of help us go down the right path of an assessment plan to be able to make the appropriate treatment. And we'll talk about that when we get more into assessments. So after you complete this course, you are eligible to either take the National Registry EMT and or your state certification exam. With this course for New Hampshire that we're doing today for the next 4 months, is a National Registry EMT exam that you will have to schedule on your own time. There is a cost to this. This is not covered in the course, all right? And I do not know, I can't remember off the top of my head the cost of the test. But there's a cost for the registry practical and a cost for the registry written, which is separate from what I teach you guys in this program. Once you pass both of those, then you are then eligible to apply for a state licensure. So after you pass the exam, you can apply for the state licensure program to be able to practice medicine in that state. So if you have a New Hampshire license, you can't practice in Maine until you get a Maine license, which you can't practice in Mass until you get a Mass license. So it depends on which state you're working in, you have to take and meet their requirements. As you can see, most states have 4 levels of training. With that being said, the EMR level in Maine is not very popular, but in New Hampshire, it's a very popular level. I just did an EMR class for the town of Freedom about maybe a year and a half ago with that, to get their guys up to an EMR level certification. And as you know, and as you can see, the higher up you go, the more responsibilities you have, up into the paramedic level. An EMR has a very basic training. They provide care before the ambulance arrives, and they may assist in the ambulance. As an EMR, you cannot transport in the back of an ambulance by yourself. You have to have an EMT or higher. But the state of New Hampshire requires 2 licensed providers on an ambulance in order to be a transport ambulance. And an EMR can count as one of those 2 licensed providers as long as the EMT or higher is in the back with the patient. The EMT has training and basic life support, BLS, including automated external defibrillation, airway adjuncts, and assisting patients with certain medications. So yes, you guys will have medications at your disposal at the EMT level to help treat your patient. And some of the medications being like epinephrine to help treat a patient anaphylactic shock, anaphylaxis. You have pain management at the EMT level now in New Hampshire, where you can give ibuprofen or Tylenol oral. You also have oral glucose, you have oxygen. So there's a lot of different things you have available to you to help treat this patient. You can assist with patient medications like nitroglycerin, you can administer oxygen. And then New Hampshire went as far as saying, you can do all this as an EMT and they're going to give you a little bit more. So they also gave them 12 lead acquisition. So you can do a 12 lead EKG and then you can transmit that 12 lead EKG to the hospital using internet-based ambulances. You also have the ability to put advanced what they call supraglottic airway, so above the glottic opening, covering that. So we have what they call a king airway or an iGel. Those are now approved for New Hampshire as well to be able to help secure that airway better. So there's a lot of cool things that the EMT level has gone to. Maine just gave EMTs CPAP, which is continuous positive airway pressure, which is above and beyond what a bag valve mask would be doing for patients that are having severe respiratory distress or acute pulmonary edema. So yeah, I'm throwing out a bunch of different terms now. We'll explain it more in detail later in the respiratory and cardiac sections. But with that being said, there's a lot of cool things that the EMT can do in the back of an ambulance. And a lot of our calls can be handled at an EMT level. The advanced EMT now has training in specific aspects of advanced life support care, including intravenous therapy, so putting IVs in, and administration of a limited number of emergency medications, one of them being like dextrose for someone who's hypoglycemic, or epinephrine in a 1 to 10,000 mixture, to help with someone who's in cardiac arrest. So they have a little bit more at their disposal as well. They also have the ability to do pain management with nitrous oxide. So again, things are changing as we go. And the paramedic level, and usually a 2-year program, that's what I did. I went through 5 semesters of college for this, is extensive ALS training, include endotracheal intubation, so putting tubes down someone's throat, also doing Crikes, decompressions, chest decompressions, putting needles in chest, to cutting someone's throat open and putting a tube down that way, to extensive cardiac management, and other advanced assessment skills and treatment skills that we have. So again, there's so much more that you're going to learn, but each step along the way helps you get to that point. And I'm hoping that some of you will aspire to be a paramedic someday. But again, don't jump so quickly because there's a lot to learn. And you also want to make sure you have that not educational, but street clinical background before you move up to the next level. So people that obtain their EMT now, I plan on doing an advanced EMT class in the fall. So if you take this class, you pass in June, you do a couple months, you could actually technically jump into an advanced EMT in the fall, and then move forward from there and move up your skill level. So the EMT course includes 4 learning activities: reading assignments, lecture presentations, and classroom discussions. We're also going to cover step-by-step demonstrations. We're going to do a summary of skill sheets, which are done by the state level. And there's also case presentations and different scenarios we can look at as well at the end. EMT training focus and requirements. So the EMTs are the backbone of the EMS system in the United States. If you go to the National Registry website, you'll see that there are probably 300,000 more National Registered EMTs than there are paramedics in the United States. EMTs provide emergency care to the sick and injured. You guys are the first ones in. In a lot of systems, they run what they call a tier system, where you'll have a BLS or EMT ambulance responding to a call, and then you'll have a paramedic fly car coming in as a dual response. And they may get there and go, there's nothing that we're going to do ALS-wise. You can handle this at your level. They give you the blessing, and then it's your call to take in. Or you can say, hey, this patient's pretty sick. I can use your help. And then we hop in the back and we start doing some ALS. I always call it paramagician stuff. But again, it's interesting things that we do to kind of help. But again, we have to work together as a team. You have a scope of practice you need to follow. I shouldn't have to, as a paramedic, come in and do your scope. I come in and do mine, you do yours, together as a team, positive patient outcome. EMTs provide, some patients are in life-threatening situations, from rapid heart rates to hypotension, shock, trauma, and other required supportive care. Patients that have dementia, or they're going back home for hospice care, that really just need that supportive, or what they call psychological type first aid to kind of help out. Psychiatric patients, dealing with patients that are intoxicated, you know, they may need some more supportive care than they actually need ALS intervention. Some of the subjects discussed in this text include scene size up, which we should be doing all the time, not just in the beginning of a scene. Patient assessment. And our patient assessment means you come up with a diagnosis and a treatment plan, usually within 3 minutes of patient contact. How we're going to treat them, how we're going to package that patient in getting them out of the house or out of the car or out of a ditch somewhere as well. And then, do you want to make this a career, or is this just going to be one of those fun activities that you utilize to help on a volunteer service? There's different avenues. And if you want to do flight medicine, then I can help you get to that point. I can direct you in the right way to find the right services to work for and meet the right people to move into flight medicine if that's what you want to do. There's a lot of different different things that are out there. Just let me know on the side sometime if you're interested in different EMS as a career. And where I work, we're always hiring. So there's always that as well. Licensure requirements differ from state to state, but generally required to be an EMT. Our high school diploma or equivalent, proof of immunizations, successful completion of a background check and drug screen, and a valid driver's license. Most states require this kind of stuff in order to obtain a license. Now, if you had a criminal background 20 years ago, they may flag it and say, hey, you need to come meet with our licensing board and kind of talk about what happened in the past. And a lot of times you go up there and you have a conversation with them. They go, yeah, you know what? It was 20 years ago. We just had to talk to you, get your side of the story on it. You're good. You can have your license, right? So don't let certain things deter you. So Dave, definitely, we can definitely discuss that as well. Successful completion of required courses and certification exams. And there are a lot of other things you have to maintain. So for you as an EMT, what you have to maintain at a bare minimum is your continuing education hours you have to do every 2 years, and you have to maintain CPR, right? So it's not too bad. The higher you go, the more certifications you have to maintain. Demonstration of the mental and physical ability necessary to perform your job. There's lifting, you're working day, you work at night, you work in the cold, you work in the snow. We don't stop responding because there's a blizzard outside. We go out and we do our job, right? You're going to be with different types of patients. You're going to find patients that just want to call you every name in the book. You know what? Let them. It doesn't bother me. It shouldn't bother you. We're there to do a job, and that's how we work. Compliance with other state, local, and employment provisions. Again, some states run statewide treatment protocol, like Vermont, but then they also have medical director, I'm trying to think of the word I'm using, medical director assignments. So if they say, well, you can have, the state says you can have all this, but we're only going to give you this amount of medications or whatnot. So yes, you have to have immunizations for the clinicals. I'm sure you meant to send that to I'm hoping everybody for Emily's response. So yes, we do have to have immunization records. If you've been out of school for a while, your high school has all of those on file. Even if you've been out of high school for more than 15 years, they still have to have those somewhere in some kind of cold file someplace. But we do the best we can to get them.
Kevin, what if you've been out of high school 40 years?
Your high, well, that you may have to get some boosters. Do they require a COVID vaccine for clinicals? For us, no. Stewart's, I don't believe requires it, and Berlin definitely does not require it. So that answers your question, Sean, there. So no, for the clinical sites we're doing now, no COVID, the COVID vaccine is not required. Just keep in mind that you are going to be around patients that have COVID. So you might want to make sure you wear your masks and everything else, you're at 95s. Licensure requirements. Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits employers from failing to provide full and equal employment. Title I of the ADA protects EMTs with disabilities who are seeking employment. It may require modifying the work environment or how the job is performed. Then obviously background checks. So obviously we talk about history, like an overview of the EMS system. So history of EMS origins include volunteer ambulances in World War I to field care in World War II and the field medic and rapid helicopter evacuation in the Korean conflict. EMS has been around for quite some time, but not as long as the fire service has. All right. Where did a lot of our EMS protocols come from? Where do you guys think it came from? A lot of our EMS care at the national level. What do you guys think? Thoughts?
Mistakes.
Anybody else?
Probably the lack of the assistance that we had during wars, since a lot of people that had a medical background were sent overseas for the soldiers.
Yep. And where do you think our protocols came from? Where do you think our EMS was derived from? The one thing you guys should be thinking is military, right? MASH units. A lot of this care from the military has worked its way into civilian world, where now we are providing that same type of care, similar type of care. So we start seeing that. The volunteer ambulances in World War I. Yep. Field care in World War II. Those units have now progressed, and that care is turned into the National Department of Transportation standard that we follow through the National Registry. And with that is help develop our system to where it is today. So there are things, when I got my EMT license in 1999, that we no longer do anymore. I was talking today to my family today, and I was like, I just got the new 12th edition to review, which is the next edition after one you guys are using now. And I looked back at my textbook, which was like the 5th edition, back 22 years ago, and it was half the thickness. So things have progressed, things have changed, and we really didn't see a lot of big changes until, as you can see here, in 1966, the Accidental Death and Disability, the neglected disease of modern society established EMS. So EMS was now saying in 1966, we're going to start doing EMS care. But in the early 1970s, DOT published the first EMT training curriculum. So they were saying, yeah, we can do this kind of training, that kind of training. But finally, in the 1970s, the EMT training curriculum was said, this is how it's going to be. And then they moved from there. Now, I remember people telling me that got their EMT license in the early 70s that still work for us. Some people actually still work for Action Ambulance where I work now. They got their EMT license in 1977. And he said the book was probably 60 pages long, and that was my EMT book. Now it's 600 pages long. You can see the changes. In 1971, AOS published what they call the Orange Book. So that is what we're currently using today. AOS, it's the platform that we're utilizing. Brady also makes it. There's other companies out there that have EMT. I can create my own curriculum if I want to, but we still have to follow the DOT standard. Hold on a minute, a little too far there. So in the 1970s, you see it as national standardization efforts. The DOT National Standard Curriculum was developed. In 1980s, advanced level of EMTs, like your paramedics, started to come about. So some of your first paramedics that were actually were done over like Miami-Dade in Florida, and also in California, like Los Angeles. Those were some of your first paramedics were developed. Cape Cod, Massachusetts started doing paramedic training in the late 1970s, and they were taught by physicians. Taught by physicians to people that wanted to get paramedic level of care. All right. So I'm having a moment, I'm trying to think of them. So you know the different TV shows you've seen over time, EMS Care and Transmission. We had I can't think of Emergency. My goodness, I couldn't think of the TV show. So the TV show Emergency was one of the reasons why EMS is gone to where it's gone. You know. So Joy, I'll get to that question in 1 second, and I'll actually read that out to everybody too, because it's a good question to actually talk about. And I'm not super familiar with the military side of things either, but I'll kind of cover what I do know about it. So with that, in the 1990s, the NHTSA's EMS agenda for the future was developed, and the standard of care went even farther. So the National Registry then went from the intermediate level, where they had two different levels. They had what they call an I-85 and an I-99. They said, this doesn't make any sense. Why don't we just call it an advanced EMT and kind of take both those curriculums, take some away from one, add more to the next, and this is what we're going to run, call it an advanced level. Thank you, Jeff, for that one too. MASH, yes. There's MASH, Emergency, you know, a lot of different shows that were out there that kind of spearheaded what we're doing now. You know, and it's amazing how that's worked. So Joy did ask a question, but how does basic training, medical training rank in EMS? So completely different, because in basic training, from what I understand, as far as like combat lifesaver for the military stuff, is a lot less than what you'll learn for the EMT curriculum, but the military trains you more for the trauma, right? They don't teach you that medical side of things, because nothing for nothing, our active military men shouldn't be having heart attacks. They're not 600 pounds, 400 pounds, 500 pounds, eating completely horrible food, and things like that, and having strokes and whatnot. But what's happening, you're seeing more of the stuff in the wars with trauma. And a lot of our trauma care and what we're doing now in the field for EMS is actually because of what the hospitals, the pre-hospital standards from the military is actually leaked over, like tourniquets, quick clot, TXA, which is the medication for paramedics that promote more clotting, and things like that. So you have your combat lifesaver, which is kind of like an EMR, and then you have your military medics, which go more toward the paramedic and EMT side. So the way it was explained to me was combat lifesaver is kind of like an EMR, like first aid type deal for the civilian world, and then the medics are like EMTs, and then there were paramedics that were there. Does that help answer your question, Joy? I am looking at I have your text box open right now as well. Awesome. All right. So Sean is mentioning, you guys see what Sean put down too. Military basic training basically teaches you how to slap on a tourniquet, load a body on a litter, and move. Not very in depth. Hope that helped. Yeah, thanks. That does help quite a bit. So you have the combat lifesaver, then you have your medic, then you actually have paramedics in the military, and it kind of breaks it down a little bit different. So the National EMS Scope of Practice module provides different guidelines for the federal level kind of like what we're going to do is here's what the scope of practice is going to be nationally, but then the state can say, we're going to give you more. And then at local level, the medical director provides oversight and support in how that's going to work. So we have our federal, national level stuff that the state says, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to give you more stuff for our scope of practice. And then the medical directors we have for our services kind of oversee what we're doing. So in order to be an EMS service in Maine or New Hampshire, you have, in Massachusetts, same thing, you have to have a physician, an emergency room type physician that oversees your service as a medical director to provide oversight and help and support. As you can see here, medical direction is day by day stuff. So we have medical direction, we have medical control we can contact. The theoretical foundation is really your national EMS scope of practice module, and your state EMS office is your EMS administration, with regulatory role, legislative liaison type role, things like that. As far as public BLS and immediate aid, millions of lay people now are trained in BLS CPR, including teachers, coaches, and childcare providers. And you're starting to see more AEDs out into the public. So one of the cool things is, and I know Taylor being part of Wolfboro Fire, they just got one hell of a grant to put a lot of AEDs out in the community and on all their apparatus, and that's phenomenal. That Chief Zotti made that had the grant written out, and we see more of that kind of stuff. Maine has the Stephen and Tabitha King STK Foundation, and they do a lot of stuff like that too, because they give money to EMS and fire services through grants like twice a year. So there's a lot of different things that are out there to help get the AEDs and education to the public. And I mentioned in one of my last classes I did about public service announcements. The AHA did a public service announcement for 30 seconds on the radio stations on how to do hands-only CPR. Put your hands on they're not breathing, no signs of life. Put your hands on the center of their chest, and you push down, you push hard and fast until help arrives, and call 911. I just taught you guys how to do CPR. You know, so a lot of things have happened with that, and we're starting to see millions of lay people that are becoming more and more trained. Emergency medical responders, including law enforcement officers and firefighters. A lot of firefighters out there just have the EMR course. They don't provide any other kind of medicine. They first respond, here's some oxygen, the ambulance shows up, and they pass them off. And there are some services that people on the engine are paramedics, you know, or EMTs. Initiate immediate care and assist EMTs on their arrival. Good Samaritans are trained in first aid and CPR and can provide valuable assistance, or they can interfere with operations because they want to do more and more. So again, if someone comes up to you and says, I'm a doctor, can I help? What kind of doctor are you? I'm a podiatrist. Yeah, I want you to stand over there and fix someone's shoes. You know, so kind of go to that side. I'm an emergency room physician. All right, just keep in mind that if you do anything above my scope of practice, you have to transport with me. And if they say, no, I'm good, all right, I want you to stand there and you kind of watch. They can be valuable, or they can be a hindrance. An average EMT course requires about 150 hours, right? The EMT has knowledge and skills to provide basic emergency care, and the EMT will then assume responsibility for assessment, care, packaging, and how we transport the patient. Advanced EMTs have a training which adds knowledge and skill of specific aspects of ALS, including IV therapy, advanced airway adjuncts, and administration of limited number of medications. And they're also getting some cardiac rhythm interpretation as well. The paramedic have extensive training with over 1,300 hours. Training course covers a wide range of ALS skills. And I can tell you, like I said, when I went to school for this, you know, back in 2009, you know, I did a 2-year degree program and got an associate's degree in paramedicine out of it, because it took 5 semesters and we had 1,000 hours of just clinical rotations. That doesn't include the didactic time. So it depends on which program you take, but it can average between 1,000 to maybe almost 2,000 hours, 1,800 hours of classroom and internships. So there's a lot there, depending on which way you want to go. There are 14 components of the EMS system. With that, there's public access, clinical care, medical direction, integration of health services, information systems, prevention, EMS research, communication systems, human resources, legislation and regulation, evaluation, system finance, public education, and the education system itself. As you can see in this photo here. And with all this being said, this system really does work. All right, so we look at emergency department. We'll look at that side first. We'll start more on the right-hand side first. Incident recognition, okay, that has to be done by the layperson. Someone's got to see it happen, right? So they access 911 by calling a dispatch center. Now, there are what they call PSATs, which are public safety answering points. With that, they then direct it to a dispatch center. So, for example, in New Hampshire, Concord is a PSAP that then takes the call and does emergency medical dispatching, which is a bunch of series of questions that gives them a determinant and also gives them a treatment plan so they can start asking more questions and helping over the phone. They then take that information and they send it to a dispatch center, let's say Carroll County, for example, where I work, where they then dispatch it out saying respond to this for an Alpha, Bravo, Delta, Charlie, Delta, Echo, or Omega type call. So we respond out based on the determinant of how critical the patient is based on questioning. First response is dispatched out. So fire department goes out. You may have a basic life support ambulance coming in, so BLS EMT ambulance with an ALS life support fly car, or you have a paramedic ambulance just responding to the scene. Motor vehicle accident, patient's trapped. It's going to be 45 minutes before you get the patient out, and the patient's very critical bilateral femur fractures. Now we start thinking about transporting by ground or by air into a trauma center. After that, we start getting into the specialty stuff like pediatrics, cardiac stroke, poison centers, trauma, other kind of specialty patients. So they go to an emergency department that facilitates stabilization of a patient. There's different levels of hospital. There's critical access. So the kind of critical access would be like Sanford Hospital, Deb, for you, and for Joy, if you live in that Sanford region. Then you have level 3 trauma centers, right, which can handle some trauma, but not everything that needs to be handled. Then they have level 2 trauma centers that have everything to handle trauma plus neurology, and they have a neurosurgeon that's on call at night, or they could be 24 hours. Then you have your level 1 trauma centers, and what makes a difference between a level 2 and a level 1 is 24-hour on staff, on duty neurosurgeons, and it has to be a teaching hospital. So they have to have residents and everything else affiliated with a major university. So there's that's specialty care. All right. Then we have patient rehabilitation, where they have to go to like a rehab center and things like that. Then we look at prevention, awareness, and then public education, and that's where we come into play in the fire and EMS service, getting that information out to the people on how to be better. And one of the biggest integrations now is what they call community paramedicine, where they're actually training EMTs, the paramedics, to go out into the community to help, change out Foleys, to help with medication assistance and things like that. And the hospitals love it. And this is the reason why the hospitals love it, is because if a hospital discharges a patient to go home and they go back to the hospital and get readmitted for the diagnosis they were discharged for within 30 days, the hospital has to eat the cost of that patient coming in. But you guys didn't know that. So that's why community paramedicine was really developed, to make sure the patients are doing their proper treatments at home. And we're there to kind of monitor doing telemedicine and having conversations with physicians through like FaceTime to have a special set of protocols to treat these patients at home to prevent them from coming back in. So interesting stuff that's out there. So public access 911, we talked about this, going into dispatchers, which retain information. And then we have emergency medical dispatch systems, which provide medical instruction. In Maine, you are required to have an EMD certification, which is a Maine EMS license. In New Hampshire, you get EMD certified, as well as same thing with Massachusetts. And there's a certification course you have to go through. Dispatchers then select the emergency system component to activate, whether it be fire, EMS, or a private service as well. And there's also new technology that can help responders locate patients better through triangulation of cell phone towers and things like that. As far as clinical care goes, it describes the piece of the equipment and the scope of practice, whether it be EMT to paramedic. And again, just know what your services do provide. Human resources focuses on people who deliver the care, compensation, interaction with other members of the medical community, and efforts are underway to allow EMS providers to move from state to state. That's the National Registry with that. Medical direction is your medical director, who authorizes the EMTs to provide medical care in the field. The state has a medical director, and then each service has to have their own medical director as well. Standing orders and protocols are describe the appropriate care. So New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont, Rhode Island, whatever, right? All these different states have statewide treatment protocols. And one of the apps you can download, I think it's like $10, is called the PPP app, which is Paramedic Protocol Provider. Don't be confused with the word that says paramedic. It's a state protocol app you can download multiple states on. Or you can just go and download a PDF version onto your phone, and you can review them that way if you'd like to as well. But those are going to be your statewide protocols. And when we get to our practical session, I will show you guys the statewide protocols as well so you can see what they are. The medical director acts as a liaison, and medical control can be offline or online. Your offline medical control is indirect, like your standing orders, training, supervision, so basically your protocol books. And your online medical control is when you contact a physician and you're asking for permission to do a certain procedure. For example, for the EMT level, if you want to assist a patient with nitroglycerin under the tongue for a patient having chest pain, you have to contact medical control at the hospital they're going to be transporting to and advise them, I have this patient, 69-year-old male, these are their vital signs. Patient has active chest pain, crushing chest pain, has an elephant sitting on their chest. It's about a 7 on 10, radiating to the back of the neck, arm, and jaw. Classic signs of a potential cardiac event. Acute coronary syndrome, they call it ACS. Do I have permission to give 1 nitroglycerin sublingual under the tongue, 0.4 milligrams? They're going to be like, yes, go ahead and do that. Right? Repeat it back to them. And then you get the doctor's name, so you put it in your documentation. With that, legislation and regulation. Yes.
In our area, as you know, you don't always have cell service. What if you can't get a hold of a physician for an order like that?
If cell service, you can't get a hold of a physician, then you follow your protocol and you document that multiple attempts were made to get a hold of medical control, and you follow what you're trained to do within your scope.
All right, good enough.
So there's like that, right? There's like a gray area, but you have to make an honest attempt to make it to call that.
Yeah, I figured I'd ask because you know there's no cell service up in this area, so.
Oh yeah, that was a joy. The good news is though, like in the area that we work in, Sean, we don't have any BLS ambulances, so it's always good to have that advanced level type of care, which definitely helps. Unless you're running a call at center with the center ambulance, then it could be BLS. But yeah. So training protocols, practices follow state legislation. Senior EMS officials handle administrative tasks. So like myself being a senior EMS official, working for the company I work for, I help with scheduling personnel, We do a lot of purchasing on our own, but the big purchasing goes to the big guys above us. We kind of help assist with a lot of budgetary stuff and vehicle maintenance. But I also do like quality assurance, and I also do education as well, and anything on the clinical aspect of things. So the senior officials, your supervisors, your vice presidents, your chiefs, deputy chiefs, the captains, looking at both sides of the EMS, private versus municipal. Those are different things we look at as well. Pre-hospital care is coordinated within the hospital care. There's the integration of health services. So pre-hospital care is continued in the emergency department. So when you bring a patient in, and I did spend quite a few years working in a hospital setting as well as a medic with RN scope of practice. So I've kind of seen that side of it. So when you bring a patient into the ER, we, as a medic or EMT, you give a report to the either the medic or the nurse in the ER, and they take over patient care. That care then continues from the pre-hospital care that was done, and we continue on with that care to the point where they have to be either discharged so they got better, admitted to the hospital, or transferred to a higher level of care at another facility. That's all part of the integration of health services and making sure we have make sure we're going in the right direction. Integration ensures comprehensive continuity of care for the patient. That's why it's so important to get your run reports done in a timely fashion, because because working in the emergency department, they take that run report that you completed and they attach it to the patient's chart that goes to the intensive care unit or medical unit or transferred to another hospital. EMS systems collaborate with other hospitals to improve treatment for patients with heart attacks, traumas, and strokes. So in the area that like I said, I bring a lot of stuff in because I want to have you guys understand the different areas that we work in. So we do not have any level 1 trauma centers anywhere near where I work. The closest level 1 trauma center to us is Maine Medical Center, followed by Dartmouth, which is a long distance away. So we have Portsmouth, which is a level 2 trauma center. And we don't have any cath labs, which would be for someone having a heart attack. So we've gotten special permission to carry different medications on the ambulance, like heparin. And we have something called a STEMI, or heart attack bypass protocol, where we can transmit the EKG, have a consultation with a medical director, give a medication to help stop the clotting process, heparin, and then transport that patient to a cath lab where they can be cardiac catheterized right away instead of going to a different hospital and being transferred out. So again, the EMS system collaborates with our hospitals. We worked really closely with Huggins Hospital to develop a bypass protocol. And because we did such a great job with it, they gave us the medications we were looking for, and now we can do that. So that just shows you that the integration is there. Mobile integrated health, this is the community paramedicine stuff that I was telling you about, which is a new method of delivering home health care, but utilizing the pre-hospital spectrum. So interesting things. Works with the community and team professionals, and also allows you to work with the physicians as well through telemedicine. So we can see them talking with us. That's another whole program on top of this you have to take to do that. Mobile integrated health created additional training levels for EMS providers, including community paramedicine, where we receive advanced training to provide services within a community, and community paramedics provide additional services to the patients that we're coming in contact with. As far as evaluation goes, the medical director is responsible for maintaining quality control. So I'll tell you my job, because this is exactly what we're talking about here. So my medical director that I answer to is Dr. Dunn at Memorial Hospital. He has given me the total authority to do whatever I need to do to make sure quality assurance is done. And then I work under a vice president out of Massachusetts. So I kind of handle all of Maine and New Hampshire. So I do continuous quality improvement. What that means is that I look in detail on every run report that it comes in to make sure that the provider did great clinical care. If I found that there's an issue, then I document it. It goes into the CQI system that we have. I send emails to the employee, then we set up a time to meet and we cover that call and say, hey, what did you think about this? Or what were you thinking during this, but it didn't paint that picture in your narrative? Why didn't you go with this type of medication over this one here? And it's not to get anybody in trouble. It's to make you a better provider. All right. And then refresher training, continuing education is also important as well, where you are required to have continuing education every 2 years in national content, local content, and individual content to renew your EMS license. Right? And the whole thing of evaluation is to minimize errors, and that is our goal, to make sure you are the best provider you can be by us kind of helping you get to that direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Everybody good online so far?
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. All right. If I seem like I'm rambling on too much, say, hey, focus. But I kind of wanted to make sure you guys understand the evaluation part, because that's a huge component of what we do. And to make sure that quality improvement is done, because again, if there's no quality assurance, that means you guys can just run rampant and do whatever you want, and someone's going to get killed or hurt. So that's why we're there. Information system is used to efficiently document the care that has been delivered. That is going to be your run report. TEMSIS, MEFRS, we use an Action Easy PCR to whatever system they utilize. It's all done for that. But the information can also be used to improve care. What I mean by that is everything's done with drop-down boxes and narratives and things like that. And all those drop-down boxes are used for data. Data collection. You're like, oh, well, it's just for data. Why do I have to fill it out? Because the more data you put in, it gets transferred to what they call NEMSIS, which is a National Incident Management System that says, hey, we need to update these scope of practices to make them better because we're starting to see more of this. And one of the biggest things that I'm going to bring up with that is we saw an abundance of people overdosing on heroin. And I'll tell you right now, when I was working for AMR in Somersworth as a supervisor, I probably gave Narcan to about 7 patients a day. Not even joking. All on heroin overdose. Right? So we realized that we can't just have paramedics giving this, but we need to give it to the fire departments and the police departments. And that's what happened. Right? So they took all that data and they made it so that way EMTs could actually give it now. And now it's part of your scope of practice because the data was there. That's why it's important to get this information in. We also look at average response times, average on-scene times for trauma patients, the need for educational sessions. So if I start to see a trend in multiple people doing the same thing, then my next training plan for the next month will be on a topic based upon the trend that I'm seeing. That way there I can correct it without going to say, I'm going to pick on Deborah because she's on my phone still. It's the longest phone call ever. I'm not going to go to Deborah and say, you suck at EMS. Why are you doing this? But yet 15 other people doing the same thing. Instead, I can just develop a training program and then say, hey, we're going to do this instead, right? CQI is not there to hurt people. It is there to help them and make them better educated to do a better job down the road. The system finance varies depending on organizations involved and how it works, right? We need to function on subsidies from the towns, and which means money the towns pay us as a private organization, and billing as well. And billing is based upon how you document your reports and how much money you get back. Fire departments, right? 95% in the United States are municipality based. There are a lot of private ones that are out there as well. So you have your private organizations like Action Ambulance, Brewster was like that. Northeast Ambulance for Maine. That's your privates. Your fire departments are going to be like your municipal departments that are around. Then your third service hospital, that's going to be like your Frisbee hospital, Frisbee EMS. That's your third service and hospital based. Things like that. Exeter ALS. the other ones that are over. Maine doesn't have many hospital-based. Pace Ambulance Service is hospital-based out of Norway, and they're owned by the Maine health system. So there's a lot of different ones that are out there. Personnel may be paid, volunteer, or a mix. Like where I work, it's all career. We don't have any volunteers. We have per diem, part-time, full-time employees. Then you have fire departments that are all volunteer. They get no compensation, or they can be paid on call, or they could be career firefighters. It's all different mix that are out there. EMTs may be asked to gather insurance information, secure signatures, and obtain permission from patients to bill insurance. And we have to do that. There's a form that has to be signed by every patient to acknowledge, one, we're not going to release their information to anybody other than the people involved in this call and billing and things like that. And then we're going to protect their health information. Also, do we have permission to bill your insurance company? And they're going to sign the form. Now, if they're unresponsive, then the hospital can sign. If they're a minor, you have a parent sign. EMS instructors are licensed in most states. So for me to become an EMS instructor in New Hampshire, I had to take fire instructor 1, 2, and 3. So I had to get my pro board certification, fire instructor 3, then do an EMS module on top of that. For Maine, I was fire instructor 1 and 2 back in 2004 and got my Maine IC back then. But again, now it's a license, and I have to maintain that license by doing continuing education hours and teaching. Most EMS training programs must adhere to national standards. Every program I do has to adhere to the National Registry. Con Ed, refresher courses, computer-based or mannequin-based self-education exercises. I have to, as my education system goes, I have to test competency on all the providers that are there to make sure that they're competent providers on a yearly annual review. A measure intended to maintain and update EMT skills and knowledge. Maine just rolled out new protocols with updates to the EMT level. So as an IC, I had to go through a train the trainer, and then I could go back to the departments in Maine and train them. ALS instructors and directors must hold a 4-year degree. Not exactly true. I have two-year degrees that are equivalent to a 4, which is why I do what I do here. But training is provided in college, adult career centers, or hospital settings as well. So we do a lot of ALS training. And I just found out that we are putting on we as Fire Tech Training, my company, but where I work, they're going to be putting on a paramedic program here in the near future. So paramedic programs have to be accredited by a college system now. So me, for my own company, I can never do a paramedic program, but I can do advanced EMT and under that. Prevention and public education, 2 components of the EMS system with a focus on public health. Again, we have to do good PR and good prevention, get information out. One of the biggest things that Maine has pushed and New Hampshire is doing as well is what they call a heart safe community, where they offer community education programs. EMS works with public health agencies on primary and secondary prevention. So the biggest one, as you can see here, examples of public health accomplishments is vaccination programs. And that has been huge for us with COVID, to the point where they're training advanced EMTs and paramedics to help administer these vaccines because they just couldn't keep up. Tobacco use laws, restaurant inspections, and these are all different public health accomplishments. Prenatal screenings, formation of the Food and Drug or FDA, helmet laws, things like that. That are all these different examples of public education prevention programs. EMS research helps determine and shape EMS. I just talked about that before. Application of evidence-based practice, integral to being an EMS provider. So if you look at protocols, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island, the New England states all have the same pediatric protocol. What they did was something called a Pegasus study in Texas, where Texas said these are going to be our evidence-based medicine practice on pediatric patients, and they liked their protocol set based on the evidence on the practice that was there, and that then in turn to almost a New England-based set of pediatric protocols. And one of the things that they've been trying to do for years, instead of doing like Maine protocol, New Hampshire protocol, come up with a New England protocol instead. And it's because of evidence-based medicine is why this is happening. And without you guys as EMTs, yeah, I called you guys EMTs already, gathering data, this cannot happen because it's all based on evidence-based decision-making and based on the research that you guys have. So other roles and responsibilities of the EMT obviously is keeping your vehicles and equipment ready. We require that truck checks are done by 9 a.m. And complete and submitted through our systems as well. So you want to make sure that your trucks are clean and ready to go because you are a rolling billboard, whether you're a municipality or you're a private EMS service or you're hospital based. Either way, the dollars come from taxes. The dollars come from billing, right? So you got to make sure that your vehicles are clean and ready to go. Ensure your safety, be familiar with emergency vehicle operation. Your first day on the job should not be driving an ambulance code 3 license sirens to a cardiac arrest that you've never driven an ambulance before. There's programs that are out there that are required you to have. Maine requires within 6 months of hire that you go through a full driver training program approved by the state. And there's only 2 that are approved at this point in time for Maine EMS. New Hampshire, it's service specific on what you want to do. And because when I work in New Hampshire, I adopted the VFIS curriculum, which is what Maine Fire Service Institute also uses for Maine. On-scene leadership, again, there should be supervisors on every day you can talk to, and then scene evaluation as well. I feel like I'm giving you guys an orientation. So call for additional resources as needed. You're also going to be looking at gaining patient access, whether that be going through a door, window, opening a door, calling for fire to gain access as needed, breaking doors down, whatever needs to happen to gain access to a patient if you see one there. Perform a patient assessment, looking at your how the patient presents to you, to getting vital signs, asking the appropriate questions, using what they call sample and OPQRST acronyms to get the patient assessment done. And then based upon your assessment, you're going to give emergency medical care while awaiting additional medical resources. Or you could be the only resource at the EMT level, and you have to transport the patient to the hospital at your level. And then if you need ALS, you call for another town. Your job also is to give emotional support. So don't walk in and just be a complete jerk to the patient, okay? The way I try to explain this to all my students and even new hires that come through and things like that, if somebody is sick, okay, it doesn't matter how sick they are calling you at their worst time. They wouldn't just, hopefully they wouldn't just call you for anything if they do, but normally they're calling you at their worst time, okay? They're trusting a stranger they've never met before to show up to their home, talk about their personal lives, give them medications, treat them, and transport them. They have to gain trust in you the moment you walk through the door. You've got to set that example. If you don't, then they have lost trust in you, right? So again, professional, know what you're doing, the best ability, and if it's above what you think you can handle, you need to call for help. Resolve emergency incidents, uphold medical and legal standards. And we're going to ensure and protect patient privacy. We're going to give administrative support. Constantly continue professional development. You need to continue educating yourself. Please do not stop. Cultivate and sustain community relations and give back to the profession. Work your way up to being a mentor, being a field training officer, and give back to the people. Remember, You were once that brand new rookie probie coming in. 5 years down the road, give back to that same person because you were there once. You know what it was like. Don't forget where you came from, right? Never forget that. And because of that, we need to have professional attributes, integrity, empathy, self-motivation. Please don't come to work, show up, go sit down, have breakfast, and go to sleep. Do your truck checks, get your trucks ready to go, be ready to go. Appearance and hygiene, remember I mentioned it before, you're walking through the door of a stranger for the first time, might want to look presentable. And have some self-confidence. Please, you guys are going to pass this course. I know you're going to pass, right? Have some self-confidence. Do your readings, do your assignments, learn, ask questions, build self-confidence. Time management is going to be very crucial, okay? Communication, teamwork, respect, patient advocate. Please do not just dump off a patient. If the hospital is not treating a patient correctly, please speak up professionally, okay? And carefully deliver the care that you need. Every patient is entitled to compassion, respect, and the best care possible. I don't care if you don't like the guy or the male or female patient or not. Doesn't matter. You still have to do your job. You need to be respectful, compassionate, and do the best patient care you possibly can. Right? So who haven't I picked on yet? I'll pick on Sean because I know Sean's there somewhere. If I showed up, Sean, to your family member, and I was a complete D-bag to them, how would you feel for me as a provider?
Wouldn't be too happy about it.
You wouldn't, right? Not at all. And you would actually probably question my competency, right? But if I walked in to say your mother, and I was compassionate, respectful, I did my assessments, I got down to her level and had a conversation with her, would that change your thought process about me?
Yeah, I'd feel a lot more comfortable.
Absolutely. All right. Treat every patient like it's your mother or father. Right? That's the best way to look at it. EMTs are bound to patient confidentiality. Right? You cannot go home and have a conversation with your significant other about, oh, I went to 22 Main Street and oh, it was that guy George again. All right? No, we can't do that. Okay? You can't go back to the grocery store or the local market and sit down at a local coffee shop and say, oh, George went to the hospital again today. You get caught doing that, you're going to lose your EMS license and you're going to receive a big fine and you could serve jail time. Keep that kind of stuff in mind, right? We are bound to patient confidentiality, right? And we'll go over more of that in detail during medical legal. Be familiar with the requirements of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. Like I said, during medical legal, we'll cover this more in depth. All right. So for review, okay, I'm gonna have you guys answer some questions for me. Feel free, please, to put them in the chat box. Either that or you can just yell out the answer. And then the next slide will actually show you guys what the answer is. Which of the following is an example of care that is provided using standing orders? A, B, C, or D? All right, so I got Deb, Nick replying back for A's. Another A popped up. Remember, it's standing orders. Joy, that's okay. You can go back and look at them too. But all right. Oh, did I hit the right button here? The answer is B. So a standing order number is a form of offline indirect medical control, which involves performing certain life-saving interventions like CPR, defib, bleeding control, before contacting a physician for further instructions. So I'm going to go back for a second here. All right. So if the EMT defibrillates a patient in cardiac arrest, begins CPR, I don't have to call to get permission to do that. It's written in an order. That's a standing order, right? So online medical control will be someone that I actually call. So I call a physician and say, hey, can I do this and this for this patient? Right. Let's see. Number 2, quality control in the EMS system is the ultimate responsibility of what? Quality control in an EMS system. So who is ultimately responsible? I'm seeing a lot of C's go up. Yeah, Joy, that's a good point. Everybody is ultimately responsible, but some person has to be held accountable. So I probably should say that. Who is accountable as the lead person and responsible? All right. I see a lot of C's going up, and the answer is C, the medical director. Number 3, upon arriving at the scene of a domestic dispute, you hear yelling and the sound of glass breaking from inside the residence. You should do what?
C.
I hear C, retreat to a safe place until the police arrive. That is correct, C. Never put yourself in a situation. It is not abandonment of a patient care if your life is at risk. Okay, your stations of your life and your safety. Number 4, which of the following is not a component of continuous quality improvement, CQI? And yes, Joy, call. I just saw that, call police backup. Absolutely. All right, I see a lot of C's. Answer is C. We don't give negative feedback, and people always think that CQI is out to punish, and it's not. It's to make you a better provider. Number 5, all the following responsibilities of the EMS medical director, except one of them. All the following are responsibilities of the EMS director, except. So I'm seeing A's pop up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with A.
All right. A it is. Good job. All right, number 6. Which of the following situations would most likely disqualify a person for EMS certification?
I put the wrong one. I wanted to put C, but I think I hit B.
So yeah, Joy, that would also as well. And I know you can't see it, but one of the correct answers would be B, which is driving under the influence of alcohol. But yeah, a violent criminal record would also disqualify you as well. Number 7, which of the following should be the EMT's highest priority? This is written like a true National Registry question right here. Controlling severe bleeding, maintaining a patient's airway, ensuring patient safety, or ensuring personal safety.
D.
Right. So we have 2 that are very similar, right? So the correct answer is D. Personal safety is the utmost concern for the EMT. written like a true national. You have 2 wrong and 2 right. Which was more right than the other? That's how the National Registry words their questions. Which of the following should the EMT, well, sorry, rephrase that. Which of the following should be the EMT's highest priority? We covered that one there. Number 8. A patient who requires cardiac monitoring in the field would require, at a minimum, which level of EMS provider? Now, this is going off the national standard, okay? Not New Hampshire licensure. So I see a lot of D's, okay? So the answer is C, paramedic, okay? So in New Hampshire, AEMTs are allowed to interpret 6 different rhythms. Same thing with Maine. What I am going to teach you in this class is the national standard with New Hampshire and Maine option. But I want you guys to know that it's national standard that you're going to be tested on. So when you take your National Registry exam, it's going to be the national standard, not New Hampshire protocol. Number 9, which of the following is a professional responsibility of the EMT?
We think it's C.
All right, see, it is. Hitting the wrong button. So maintaining a professional demeanor in even the most stressful situation, Joy, that was the correct answer, C. All right, and the last one, number 10, emergency patient care occurs in progressive phases. What occurs first? Activation of EMS, initial pre-hospital care, the patient receives definitive care, or incident recognition.
D.
All right, see a lot of D's popping up. And incident recognition is correct, D. All right, so let me just stop the recording really quick here. And then we can have some discussion.